want to thank you for joining me for this edition of Meteorological Weather Northeastern. I'm going to take you through what I think is going to happen with this upcoming major nor'easter winter storm. This is going to target a lot of population centers. This low pressure will head just south of Chicago, producing a lot of snow for the Chicago area, just north of Indianapolis through Toledo and portions of the rest of Ohio, northern Indiana, and Illinois. However, as this low weakens over the Appalachians, it will transfer its energy to the coastline, just off the Virginia coastline, and then models start doing some diverging things. And I'll go through what I think is going to happen with these models and what I think is going to happen with the overall pattern and the snowfall amount. So with further ado, let's get right into it here. Taking a look at this weather map, you basically see that late Sunday, the low pressure will be located over southeastern Ohio. As you can see, it's going to transfer its energy to the coastline. And so we do see a little bit of a lull in the action when the transfer starts occurring, but then the snow will start to strengthen again later Sunday night into early Monday morning and really get cranking here across portions of Virginia and into southeastern Pennsylvania, most of New Jersey, Long Island, into southern and southeastern New England, and eventually all of eastern New England. So that is what we're looking at here. We're looking at major impacts, even high impacts further north and west towards the Wilkes-Barrie, Scranton area, Altoona State College, Harrisburg, looking at a potential borderline high to major impact here. Boston, major. New York City, down to Baltimore, Washington, D.C., even as far southwest as Roanoke, Virginia. Here we're looking at a major impact. Look at that towards where the initial low goes towards south of Chicago there. Areas just south of Chicago, we're looking at a major impact just north of Indianapolis towards Toledo, potentially looking at high to major. So what does these mean? Let's go right into the next frame here, shall we? Taking a look at the model run here, you have the GFS, Euro, and Canadian. As you can see, the GFS is further north on the Ohio low. It does have negligible impact because if you take a look at once the redevelopment starts on early Monday morning along the North Carolina coast, you see the Canadian actually develops the low much quicker and matures it more quickly off the North Carolina coast, zooming it to the northeast. Most of the lows doing a loop off Delmarva there before zooming once again to the northeast. Canadian is much closer to the coastline, which produces more snow, higher snowfall totals, more inland. The GFS, of course, is further east, pushing more of the snow totals along the coast. The Euro really concentrates most of the energy right along the coastline once it gets cranking off the coast here and really falls those snowfall totals off to the northwest, producing most of the major snow in the big cities of the Northeast. So what does this mean for the Northeast? What do I think is going to happen? Well, let me take you through the next couple of frames here and I'll show you. Here's the precipitation totals across North America. As you can see, of course, the West Coast dealing with continued extreme storminess, that mountain snow, valley rain, tremendous amount of mudslides, lots and lots of those mountain snow. And then back east, there is that Ohio low. You see bullseye right over portions of northern Missouri into Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. On the northern fringe of that is where we'll see all snow. And then, of course, back east here, this is where you see some of the major snowfall totals here across portions of Virginia, southeastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, into portions of New England. So let's get right into the snowfall forecast and jet stream forecast here. Here's the jet stream, taking a look at the phasing that's going to go on. You see the upper jet stream, the polar jet, really digging far south here across portions of the Appalachians. This is going to provide the energy as the subtropical jet stream really pushes to the north along the coastline here. You see just off the coastline of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. That's where the phasing will start. Snowfall totals across the Northeast. Now, I want you to notice these were going to be subject to change potentially as we iron out the details of the forecast models and the exact positioning of the low and where the strength of the biggest energy will be occurring. However, at this point, I think it's pretty safe to say portions of like Buffalo, Syracuse, up to Burlington will mostly see an inch or less out of this, maybe up to 2 inches. Now, in between, that's where things get a little bit more complicated. We get closer to the coastline. That's where I'm really thinking that's where a lion's share of the snowfall is going to occur. Southeastern Pennsylvania into portions of New York City, Connecticut, Rhode Island, up to Boston, eastern Massachusetts, southeastern New Hampshire. That's where I think a band of 12 to 18 inches of snow will set up, maybe as far west as Harrisburg. Definitely Harrisburg, we're looking at 8 to 12 inches, mostly higher amounts possible to 18 inches. So you're right on that line there. Portions of Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, I think you'll definitely get into the 8, 9, 10 inch possibly. We'll see, because you're right in the center there. Binghamton, you go way up to the north here of all of the state line and the southern tier of New York. That's where things get a little bit more obscure. We may see more advisory criteria here, and from northern Pennsylvania into the southern tier of New York. We'll have to wait and see here, but this is what my current thinking is. You look over towards Pittsburgh, you'll be right in between the transfer of the low from the Ohio low to the coastline, and I think you'll kind of be stuck in between 3 to 6, 6 to 8. We'll have to see here, because Ohio, you'll be getting some of those snow totals from the initial low. So, big story here across the Northeast. Harrisburg up to Philadelphia, New York City, Wilkes-Barre, Allentown, Poughkeepsie, Hartford, Boston, Worcester, all these areas, Providence, just near the Concord area as well. I want you to all watch this, because this could be the storm that dumps a lot of snow on you. This is subject to change. This is my first snowfall map for this storm, but I will be updating this and fine-tuning this over the next 24 to 48 hours. Ice accumulations across the Northeast mostly will remain at a minimum. We will have maybe up to a 10th or 0.15 inches across the southern tier counties of Pennsylvania into Maryland, West Virginia, parts of Long Island, New Jersey, and into parts of southeastern New England, as we get some changeover during the event as the low is consolidating its energy. But for the most part, we should remain mostly all snow, or some areas closer to rain. But at this point, I think it's going to be mostly frozen. Taking a look at your forecast for your Saturday here across the Northeast. This is the one really quiet day. It's clear, it's still very cold, but for the most part, we'll see some of those lake effects, flurries and snow showers off of Lake Ontario. We're not looking at anything more than a half an inch at this point. Sunday across the Northeast, we'll see that increasing clouds, snow developing late in the day across portions just south of Interstate 80 in Pennsylvania, where we'll see a couple inches, maybe some sleet pellets and freezing rain mixing in down towards Pittsburgh as the warm front starts to push in from the Ohio Valley low. But for the most part, we'll stay mostly dry here across portions of upstate New York into New England. Sunday night across the Northeast, this is where things really start to get interesting. You have the transfer of the Ohio low along a stationary boundary across just south of Pennsylvania here. Starts to transfer to the coastline. While that's occurring, we still have some areas of freezing rain and sleet pellets mixing in across port just south of Pittsburgh and Harrisburg here. But for the most part, north of that line, we'll see mostly snow. We'll see at least a couple inches, maybe up to 3 to 5 inches overnight from Sunday night into early Monday morning. Monday across the Northeast is where the low pressure, the noreaster, really gets cranking along the coastline or just off the coastline. We'll see most of the snowfall from a Harrisburg, Scranton, New York City, just south of Albany, Boston, most of Connecticut, New Jersey, Long Island. This is where we'll see most of the snowfall occurring. We may see a quick changeover to a brief time across southern New Jersey of sleet and freezing rain, but for the most part, that will be very brief, and most of that will remain in the form of heavy snow, especially as it changes back to a heavy wet snow on the backside. Further north and west, places like Pittsburgh, State College, Binghamton, Albany, you'll see more closer to potentially advisory criteria snowfall here, if even that. So it's going to really sharply taper off to the northwest here. Places like Buffalo and Syracuse and Burlington basically almost seeing nothing out of this, maybe up to an inch or two at that point. Taking a look at the extended outlook across my forecast area from Binghamton to Scranton's upper Susquehanna region of upstate New York and northeast Pennsylvania. Now, I want to take you through, of course, Saturday, the only quiet day. We get a really cold start, both Saturday and Sunday, below zero in the normally colder valleys, only making it up towards 15 on Saturday and near 24 on Sunday. The big thing is the difference between if you live closer to Binghamton or closer to Scranton is Sunday night and Monday. Closer to Binghamton, we'll see more like an inch, maybe a 2-inch snowfall scenario, maybe a total of 2 to 4 inches out of this winter storm. That could change. I want you to stay tuned on this, but also we're taking a look at the potential towards Scranton, more closer to high-end advisory or even the warning criteria snowfall amounts, closer to 6 to 12 inches. So watch for that. It will be a radically different world, most likely, in the Wilkes-Barre Scranton area. And then, of course, towards Tuesday, we'll taper off the snowfall to flurries. As always, I want to thank you for joining me for this edition of Weather Northeastern Winter Storm Edition, Nor'easter Edition. Don't forget to like me on Facebook at MeteoMark, subscribe to me on YouTube at MeteoMark. Also, don't forget, in addition to subscribing to me at MeteoMark, also make sure to give my Twitter page some love, WX Northeastern. Also, Weather Northeastern on Facebook as well. And of course, summertime, Hurricane Northeastern. As always, I want to thank you for joining me, and I will be updating you on this winter storm and the rest of winter.